Good afternoon. I wanted to make you a quick little video to go over some of the tools and things and do a quick demo for you guys. I've tried a lot of hammers. The beautiful frets hammers that you can get from Auto Fry and Rio with rosewood handles. I mean, they're really beautiful, but they're a little bit small for what I want. That's about a ½ inch. So I really need something about 1 inch. This is the hammer I finally decided on that I like the very best. You can get this hammer at Contenti. It's made by Picard. It's around $40. The frets hammers, if you get some on sale, you can get them, for under $30. The other things that I do have, and these are pretty much interchangeable with the Delrin one here, depending on how big of a Anticlastic shape you're making. There's even one big enough for bracelets. So if you need, something bigger, like this would primarily be for bracelets. You can see how big it is. It's a big hammer. Goes all the way from the tip of my fingers to where my thumb starts. Or if you need a little extra push, this one's nice too. I borrowed this from Lorene only because I haven't polished mine yet. I wanted to make it a little rounder, and I did grind it. I just haven't polished it yet, so I'm going to use this one. I've watched a million videos. I've, taken many classes with some of the artists that make Anticlastic, Heike. I made this hammer in Heike Seppa's class, and you can see it's a cross peen. It's flat on the other end. So for me, we made a bunch of other tools I never finished, but this is just Delrin scrap from like tap plastics. We made a small sinusoid. You can get real elaborate. Like I didn't have a bandsaw anymore, so I never finished it, but if you've got the tools, it's pretty wonderful. As always with earrings, you only cut out one first, but you have the second one traced. And the reason is you may want to make adjustments in edges, length, and so forth. And so you need to keep track of that. I found, especially when I started doing the ones that had multiple changes, that I really experimented just with a pair of shears while I was working it. So the basic thing is, when you start out, you need to curve your metal. Okay. So I just did it around with my fingers around a ring mandrel. So I've chosen the one that's a little thicker on one end. Here's a little narrower version of it. This one's fun. That one has a flat. So you can really look in the your book, and there are lots of different template shapes, and you can experiment. The most important thing, or one of the most important things, is that you use at least 24 gauge. Anything higher, there's a bigger learning curve. Anything less, it just ends up getting kind of out of control in the process. So I've got a couple of them here ready to go. So I'm going to be using this cross peen. My regular cross peen hammers from the classroom are locked up due to COVID. I'm going to try to get in there, but we have, one nice size one and then a really big one. So if you decide you want to make bracelets and things, you might want to move up to get a second one. This one's really nice. Okay, Oh, I know what I want to. When you have these in your vise, I thought because it's got the pipe clamp underneath the jaws that it would hold this firmly, but it does not. So I found if I rolled the center section in 2 layers of leather and just rolled it around and then clamped it down there, it was very secure, and I could just expose whichever ones I was working on. You just don't want to put those in the jaws. The longy stake has 2 posts, and that makes it sit firmly. There's also some nuts that you can tighten from underneath, but you know me, right? So, okay. So if you have an end that is smaller, that's the end you start with, because you won't have access to it later on as you go down the trough. So 24 gauge, this is red brass. I think it works very similar to sterling. 24 gauge copper's nice too, so see how you like it, practice. There is a little bit of a learning curve. For me, the ones that had multiple twists and turns, I tended not be able to control them well enough. But you know, I've only been practicing for a short time, even though I learned all these things 20 years ago. Okay, so I've got my little blank. I'm going to start at the narrow end. If it gets out around, you have to stop and firm it up with your ring mandrels, because if you let it continue, also keep lining them up. If you let it continue, you will forge that mistake into the form. Just like when you were making the spiculum vases, very similar. That's the same technique. All right, so I'm starting with, and I like going towards myself. I like having the stake coming out to my left. You might like something different. Everybody's a little different. This is natural to me. So, and I've got it sticking out enough I can get my hand in there. So I'm going to be forming it away from me. It doesn't make a lot of noise because we're not hitting steel on steel, so I don't need my earmuffs. So I'm hitting it down into the second trough until it gets a little bit smaller. And you hold it from underneath. I saw today, I'm trying to think who it was. It was Betty Helen Longy or Nancy Lincoln. They were making a bracelet, and you know, they use, you know, pretty heavy gauge, like 18 or 20. And so she had a setup where she had the vise clamped, and then it was lower than mine. I like to work at this level. And then she put a sandbag to hold the bottom part of what she was working on. So, you know, accommodate whatever you need, and you'll learn what works for you. If this was wider, I would start at the widest part of the edge, go through once, and then flip it and go through on the other edge, the widest part. But this is narrow enough it almost fits in the trough. So you can tell from the sound, I'm not hitting it very hard. But I do want to keep checking my round, and I want to keep checking. Can you see this starting to twist? So you want to correct that just like you would if you were doing a spiculum. And I'm just pulling it back over. If you don't do it now, forget it. I'm going to use this a little bit bigger one. I'm getting to a bigger part. So if you look on videos, Michael Good on Pinterest or YouTube on videos of people doing this, a lot of them use the steel stake, the sinusoidal stake, and then a lot of different ones that they make themselves, including wood. My experience was, and even then I'd only been making, when I took the classes, I had only been a silversmith for maybe 12 or 14 years. And I know that Michael Good uses his Delaware and all the other great famous people do, but I don't like how a rubber or plastic hammer bounces, and it